Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Let's Code on IBM Expert TV. My name is Neil Patterson. I'm your host for today, and I'm pleased to have with us on this episode Roman Vaculin, who is from our research team, and picking up where we've been going for the last couple of weeks. We're going to be looking at another API on the IBM API Hub, and in this case, Roman's going to be exploring the Regression Optimization API and leading us through some hands-on experience with that API.
My name is Roman Vaculin. I'm from IBM Research. I'm a principal research staff member and a senior manager. And today I'll be talking about the Regression Optimization API that's available on the IBM API Hub. And specifically, what I would like to cover today is to first tell you what is the regression optimization as a capability, and then walk you through the RESTful service that you can play with and show you the example notebooks and the learning path, which is basically a tutorial that you can use with a walkthrough set of instructions. I have set of links here that you can use in order to experiment with it. And with that, let me just get started. So the regression optimization is an AI and optimization capability set of techniques which we have integrated into a unified framework that allows you to optimize process controls either for individual processes or for systems of processes at the planned level, or like a set of processes level. The single process capability, symbolically depicted on the left-hand side, handles optimization of unit processes. You can think of a device, of a smelter or cement grinder or similar kind of process. The system-wide optimization fundamentally has same set of APIs, same set of interfaces, but it handles more complex networks of processes, right? So that symbolically are represented here in this picture on the right-hand side. And that really is characterized by the network of connections between the individual units in the processes and the behaviors of the individual processes as well. So single process or single regression optimization, typically what we are taking advantage of is we take the data that flow into or represented that process. So think of it as set of input and control variables like the X, and set of response variables, a response variable Y. So Y can be an output that you're trying to optimize. It can be a production, for example, or a speed or some similar kind of variable. And inputs can be the sensory data, for instance, right? Or the material that flows in. And then on top of it, we use these historical data to extract quote unquote the knowledge about the process, which is the relationship between the controls and the response variable. And then we use it in the optimizer to optimize the output. So for example, you can think about maximizing the production capacity or minimizing the energy, right? So that's an example. System-wide, on the other hand, as I mentioned before, adds to the process a structure, right? So in addition to the process that before was one individual process, we can have multiple of these processes. Again, a symbolic picture here where you may have different stages of processing, each comprising of several steps and several components that process the energy, the inputs, etc. In addition to that, we have a network structure that defines the flows of materials, for example, in between the individual components. The service that I will walk you through supports both. Now we have variety of algorithms embedded in the service. So we have set of regression functions. Variety of them are available directly in the service, and it's relatively easy to extend that. And then we have set of optimization algorithms that use these regression functions under the hood. Example case study, just to give you an idea where the service can be useful. We have done several of projects with the service, with these services. This is one where we've been optimizing the production of a cement grinding plant. Right? So we have a continual operation of the cement grinder, and we try to minimize the electricity consumption while maintaining the product quality. So that's for the single process. For the system-wide, an example case study that did the work is in the context of oil refinery, to give you an idea. And here the problem statement was that we were asked to maximize synthetic crude oil production while minimizing inventory disruption, etc. There's a lot more details about these case studies in the tutorial, which I'm going to give you links for. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to switch to the actual service, and we'll walk you through the service API that's available on the IBM Developer on IBM API Hub. The way you can find it is pretty simple. You go to Google, you type regression optimization or IBM regression optimization, and it will take you directly to this web page where you find combination of documentation, right? So you would see what the service does, but then more importantly, you will see basic getting started and then the actual APIs, right? So I'll walk you through quickly through the main building blocks. So as you would expect, I mentioned that the service is called Regression Optimization Service. So the main building blocks on the left-hand side, as you can see, is a regression set of APIs, and then follow-up set of APIs for single process optimization and system-wide optimization. Typically, the way how the user would use this API is start with the regression, train a model, or potentially upload a trained model, and then use one or the other, single process optimization or the system-wide optimization. For each, I'll just give you a quick view at the service. So for instance, with the regression, we would be starting with creating a training job, right? So here you will see the endpoint, right, that's deployed on the IBM API Hub in IBM Cloud. And then you would see the parameters that are needed. So for instance, we can name the regression model. We need to provide training data. We provide set of input and target variables. And then we have a selection of different model types that are supported, for example, linear regression or neural network or Mars, regression tree, etc. And few additional parameters. And then you just run it as usual, right? With your either curl command or integrated in Python, and we provide different integration hooks so that you can integrate easily in your popular language of choice, whichever you like. Before you can invoke that, you can try this API over here, right? You will need an IBM client ID and the client secret, which you can very easily obtain by going here to get trial subscription. That gives you a free trial. And if you want to do more than that, if you want to go beyond the trial, then you can reach out to me or Neil, and we will help you to enable more than what the trial can do for you. The API Hub, the way how we envision it is that this is our showcase capability. You can play with the capability, you can experiment, you can use data sets of your choice. And then you can also potentially use it if you want to go beyond experiments for actual deployment. And then we would probably engage if you want to go beyond just simple experimentation. Similarly, in addition to the API Hub, we've designed the capability in such a way that you can deploy it in any cloud. Right? So for example, we have a deployment in Google Cloud and other clouds as well. Right? But this is a good starting point for you to start experimenting with the capability. And if you're going to go beyond that, that is very easy to do, and we will be happy to help you. Right? So this is the training, the regression. Now, similarly, if you want to then do the next step, you would do the optimization. And to do that, you will see again, very simple set of operations, starting in this case with creating optimization job, right? So again, you will need the client ID and the secret that's provided during the registration. Then you submit the optimization job with a bunch of parameters which are documented here. So again, in this case, you would be combining it with the regression model, but you will provide, in addition to that, few configuration files, again, providing the documentation, describe how these are created and defined. And then when you create an optimization job, then you can, it's a asynchronous request. So then you can go check the status of the job. And once the job is done, then you can retrieve the solution for the input and output regression. For system-wide optimization, the structure is basically exactly the same. So again, we have create optimization job, and then you would be requesting and polling the job status. Then once the job finishes, then you can retrieve the solutions. Right, so it's pretty standard, pretty straightforward way of interacting with this service, and it's fully hosted, fully managed. Other than providing your own data and the configuration files, you don't have to really worry about pretty much anything. So that's the actual service. That's the core of the capability. I mentioned that we have a step-by-step tutorial. I make it a little bit bigger so that you can read that. The step-by-step tutorial walks you through pretty much end-to-end everything from the beginning, right? From the registration. It gives you a little bit more information about, what the capability actually is, kind of equivalent of what I'm describing here today. It talks a little bit about the case studies, and then you can do get started, get the access tokens, and do everything that you need to do on the directly with snippets of code that are available in the tutorial as well, right? So that's the tutorial. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you as well is that in addition to all that, we have a publicly available Git repository which provides a set of ready-to-use examples in the form of Jupyter notebooks. So again, when you end in this repository, you will have the basic introduction, what are the requirements to install, a few of these prerequisites. You will again need the token and the user ID on the API Hub, which is exactly the same as I told you before. But then importantly, when you go to either single process or system-wide folder, we would give you sample data, right, for the one example process. So here it's like a CSV file with a sample data set. And we will give you a set of configuration files that you need to run the regression and optimization service. And then we have the notebook, which provides you all these step-by-step instructions. So I'll make it again slightly bigger. And this is where I think it's probably the most interesting and the most convenient way of getting started. So here again, you will have a little introduction, but after that, you can clone the repository. You provide your client ID, client secret over here. You just cut and paste it directly from the API Hub. And then the notebook will walk you through step by step through everything, right? So I just give you a few initial steps, right? So first, what it does, it will just provide the headers. Then you have the endpoint, one endpoint for the regression step and another endpoint for the single process optimization over here. Then it will load the training data, right? So that's the p1.csv file that I showed you a few seconds ago. We'll load it, display that as an example, just a few initial lines of the data. And then you can provide the input parameters for the training of the regression model. And then you invoke it, right? So you submit the regression job over here, right? So here we submit the job over here, request post. Then we print out the result. So currently the job first is queued, right? Because it has been queued for execution. And then we can poll the status until the job is finished. So we will see after a few attempts that the job finishes. That's the regression job. Right? And we see the information about the model. This is the ID of the model over here. we see that it's a linear regression. Then it produces two output files. One of them is with the statistics and the other one with some additional data. And importantly, it creates the trained model that the service then can use in the context of the optimization job. And it tells you a little bit about the quality of the model. And then later, as the next step, we will show you how to run the optimization service once you have the model, the regression model trained. So this is just some introduction information for you. Here are the input parameters that you will need. And then again, we will populate these input parameters, provide the identifier, whatever identifier you want to use, you can just define that. As long as it's unique, you're fine. And we provide a reference to the regression model that we have just trained in the previous step, right? We say now we will use the optimization type, which is mixed integer linear programming type of optimization, and then reference to the two configuration files that we have provided as part of this repository. When you would do your own problem, you will have to define your own configuration files, right? And then we simply load these configuration files just to show you how do they look like. Same thing for the output configuration. And then we go to the actual job submission, right? So just like before, now we submit the optimization job. The response will be very similar as you have seen for the regression job. So we see that the job has been submitted and is queued for execution. And then we will be polling the status of the job over here until the status will be finished, right? Or finished. And then when the job is finished, we will get some information about how long the job took, the start time, end time, the output files that then you can retrieve and that give you the optimal values of the control variables. Right? And then as one of the final steps, we just retrieve the outputs over here, right? So we will get the solution for the input and solution for the outputs, right? So that's pretty much it in terms of the walkthrough. So I'll just quickly review what we covered today, right? So we walked you through, or I walked you through the API. So here is the link to it. You can just click on that and then play with it. Then if you have any issues or you want to do a step-by-step tutorial, the tutorial walks you through pretty much all the steps. And then the Git repository you can clone, use it on your laptop, and run it from there. So I'm going to stop at this.
Really appreciate you coming on and sharing the way in which you can explore the API. It's interesting that we have pretty much any way that a developer wants to start off and use it, whether it's from GitHub or from the API Hub or using that learning path. I've seen a lot of value in learning paths for a variety of our technologies. So nice to see that we have a learning path associated with this. And I certainly invite the audience to explore this API when they get a chance. And with that, thank you again for coming on. And we will be starting a new series after, let's see, in May, we'll be starting a new series related to application modernization. I invite our Let's Code audience to come out and enjoy the topics associated with that. And again, Roman, thanks very much.
Excellent.
For coming.
Thank you so much, Neil. And I'd like to again just thank you everybody for having us here, right? And again, I think the key observation that we have is that the API Hub is an excellent starting point for somebody to start experimenting with relatively sophisticated capability under the hood, right? And then maybe use it for a few, like toy examples, see how it works, learn a little bit how to integrate with that. And then If you want to go and explore further, right, we'll be very happy to assist. You can reach out to me or Neil,
Yeah.
right, and we'll get in touch. And again, the great thing is that this is used, developed using container platform and Kubernetes under the cover, so it's very easy to deploy pretty much on any cloud or on premise, right, using exactly the same structure that you can learn how to use in the API Hub.
Right,
So
and the fact you've got all the different language examples in terms of how to integrate it, that's extremely valuable.
and that's what we are doing with some of our clients as well, right? So effectively what we do is we provide access to the API Hub first, right? The integrators on the client side, they can start really quickly, right, which is wonderful, and then use exactly the same pattern in their environment of choice.
Right, perfect.
All
Well,
right.
thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time on Let's Code.